Tonight, a special fact check for the Republicans' leader on budget and economic issues, Paul Ryan. Last week, Ryan did a radio interview with Bill Bennett. He was President Reagan's education secretary. And Ryan casually shared a remarkable belief about how unemployment works. He said that if you go to America's inner cities, there are generations of men who don't work because they don't want to work or even think about work.
We have got this tailspin of culture in our inner cities in particular of men not working and just generations of men not even thinking about working or learning the value and the culture of work. And so there's a real culture problem here that has to be dealt with.
No, that is factually incorrect. Before we get to the fact check, though, let's go to Wisconsin, where this Wednesday some of Ryan's constituents aren't having it.
The next day you said that statement was inarticulate. Well, I don't believe that. You said what you meant, fine. The bottom line is this statement was not true. I'm going to point it out to you why it wasn't true. That's a cold word for black, but there are people in the inner city who are white, Hispanic, who Armenians, Danish, all types.
That's exactly right.
And everybody worked. You got here in a car or a truck or something, somebody from the inner city helped make that.
That's right.
Their conversation continued for about 7 minutes, and while Ryan tried to be respectful throughout, he didn't retract his basic argument. And his argument is false in 3 key ways. First, Ryan's asserting that inner city men don't even try to work, and that makes this an epidemic. So let's look at employment in our cities. The Labor Department counts 49 urban areas of over 1 million people. Half of those cities have unemployment below the national average of 6.5% this year. Another 14 are within 1 point of the national average. In fact, only 6 of those cities are over 2 points higher: Riverside, Providence, Las Vegas, Cleveland, and Chicago. In other words, most of our cities have unemployment at or near the national average. You might want to know that before building an argument around the idea that an entire geographic population has given up on work. Second, Ryan repeats a smear against the poor and underemployed that's so common on the right, he may not even realize that he was doing it at the time. He said they don't want to work. They don't even think about it. This is the idea that your attitude determines whether you're employed. There's a certain independent spirit to that argument. It characterizes the Ayn Rand fan fiction that Paul Ryan writes into so many of his draft budget proposals. But it's economically false. The main driver of employment is the national economy and business cycle. And that's true whether you live in the inner city or a suburb or an exurb or a farm or a houseboat. Take a look at this, for example. You can see in this chart from Virginia's state government website that although there are obvious differences between the unemployment rate in a handful of states that have different makeups and between the national unemployment rate, they all dropped and they all rose around the same time. When the recession hit, unemployment rose in all of these places, and when the economy improved, they all improved. A local Federal Reserve Bank recently made the same basic economic point in a report, noting that the recession has sharply eliminated jobs and people are working less in places where more jobs were lost, meaning the general trend of the recession is the key driver of labor participation, not, whether people are thinking about work. And then there is Ryan's third and final error, when he got around to offering a solution in that interview.
If you're driving from the suburb, to the sports arena downtown by these blighted neighborhoods, you can't just say, I'm paying my taxes, government's going to fix that. You need to get involved. You need to get involved yourself, whether through a good mentor program or some religious charity, whatever it is, to make a difference.
Yes, when you drive to the sports arena, don't forget to stop the car and mentor people. It is a perfectly fine volunteering activity, of course. Everyone from JFK to President Obama has heralded all kinds of volunteering as a small and optional part of public service. But it's not a national policy. No one who's serious about poverty and education policy thinks that these challenges in our country are going to be addressed on an optional, part-time basis. And again, for our fact check, the numbers bear that out. As the Mentor National Partnership found, among at-risk youth, 37% say they never had an adult mentor of any kind while they were growing up. of any kind, let alone a consistent trained mentor that could provide guidance over the years. Now, those are millions of young people now who are going through life without a mentor, without the benefits of having one when they were younger. So if the pleas on conservative talk radio and these kind of appeals aren't fixing the problem, then we have to decide what else we want to do about it as a community, as a government. So that's what Paul Ryan got wrong. Now still, I do think this could lead to more people getting it right. Ryan's blasé, stigma-driven criticism of the inner city was embarrassing. It offended his constituents back home, and many black leaders have spoken out, criticizing its sweeping assumptions and its correlation with, of course, stereotypes long used against black Americans. And it had so many factual errors, like the overestimating urban unemployment, conflating individual choices with the national recession, and misunderstanding the scale of how mentorship actually works, that I think Mr. Ryan's policy analysis may have wound up sounding like the very trait he wanted to criticize. His analysis sounded lazy. But criticism of bad ideas is healthy, and shaming someone for shameful ideas is necessary. Mr. Ryan is, to his partial credit, now hearing some critics out at home, and he's agreed to meet with his colleagues in the Congressional Black Caucus about this whole debate. And for a little more research on the inner city, the mayor of Paterson, New Jersey, just invited Paul Ryan to town. Quote, "Come to Paterson, Congressman Ryan," he wrote in a letter, "and I'll take you around the streets of one of the poorest cities in New Jersey, and you can meet the families of people who work 2 and sometimes 3 jobs to put food on the table and clothes on their children, since you seem not to understand causes of inner city poverty. They will be happy to explain to you the forces which have caused our urban cores to spiral downward to the point of despair." And we at The Last Word reached out to Ryan's office today, and they said the congressman, quote, "appreciates the invitation." That's good. And I think we'd all appreciate it if he would do a little more work before the next time he accuses people of slacking off.